Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Yep, we're here again. Another government funding deadline looms. Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen on the devil in the details.
Everybody needs to stop the kabuki theater and go to the table and negotiate. That's what the American people are expecting.
And the White House lays the groundwork for mass firings at the federal level if there's a shutdown October 1st. Reporter Emily Wilkins on what's safe.
Things like border security, the military, or those who have programs in line with the president's priorities.
And just how long a funding plan are we talking about here?
If they do get an agreement, how long till we do this again?
November 21st, if they go for the bill that Republicans are pushing for.
I can't.
Robo-trucks head to Wall Street, starting trading today on the Nasdaq. Autonomous trucks Kodiak Robotics driving to a $2+ billion valuation.
We've been working to automate the trucks with AI technology that allows them to effectively drive on their own.
You just give a little beep, beep, beep.
Plus, selling American citizenship. Robert Frank on the price of the administration's gold card on sale, slashed from $5 million to $1 million.
It even says that on the Trump Gold Card website. It said, unlock your privileges now.
It's Thursday, September 25th. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the Nasdaq market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernan. Andrew is out today.
Intel reportedly is speaking to Apple about a possible investment from the iPhone maker and about working more closely together. It's a Bloomberg report. Says the talks are at this point in the early stages, may not amount to anything at this point. Also that Apple is unlikely to switch back to using Intel chips in its products. CNBC has reached out to Apple for comments. Intel shares jumping more than 6% on the news this morning. That's a number 32 we haven't seen in a long time. Yeah. On pace, Intel for the best month that it has had in more than 2 years. While Becky reads this next story, I'm just going to hit up a chart on Intel and see, because that
back from the
you
don't want to say back from the dead, but back from
that's
the
exactly what I was
near
thinking.
dead.
Back from the nearly dead, newlywed is what we used to call when I lived in Pasadena. There is that's, how long is that?
Go back further. Yeah, there you go.
Back a little further.
That shows you. Down 35% still over the 5-year period, but some real interest and some major investors that matter, like the U.S. government, like NVIDIA.
The vendor financing with NVIDIA it's right. Got that, was up that day, closed down yesterday.
Yeah.
6 days, what do we got left in September? That's plenty of time.
For September to live up to its reputation?
It hasn't, because October, those the teens of October, are so many lows are made. But
September is
usually not
usually
great.
the worst.
Not great, and that's where you make a low. And nothing's happened. So I'm not saying it is, but we know, everybody knows about valuations. If you take a ride in a cab in New York or an Uber, that you might talk to the driver about valuations in the Mag 7.
They look at crypto.
Mega, all mixed up. Maybe it's just me.
Senior White House officials tell NBC News that President Trump plans to sign a deal to facilitate the sale of TikTok today. Once that deal is implemented, TikTok's U.S. operations would be run by a new joint venture company. One official said that Chinese owner ByteDance will hold less than 20% of the stock of the new company. Of course, the question still circulating around what happens to the algorithm. But the latest that we've been hearing on this is that the algorithm would be maintained and monitored by the U.S. investors and operations. Mm-hmm. The Trump administration launching national security investigations into imports of robotics, industrial machinery, and medical devices. That could pave the way for future tariffs on those products. In the medical field, products could include prescription drugs, syringes, and imported medical equipment like wheelchairs, pacemakers, and insulin pumps. The Commerce Department is seeking comment from affected companies to see whether domestic production can meet U.S. demand. Those are things you don't want shortages in, but they're things we've been talking about since COVID that you would like to see manufactured here in the United States.
Yep. Federal workers could be at risk of more than furloughs if the government shuts down in a few days. Emily Wilkins joins us now with the latest from D.C. and we'll talk at the end, Emily, but the as expected rhetoric. If you need 60 votes in the Senate, right? Is that what you need?
You need 60 votes in the Senate, Joe, and you got to math the math. There are only 53 Republicans. Some of them have to be Democrats.
I mean.
And look,
but
at this,
how are you going to say? How are they going to say? So you get all the Republicans. If the government shuts down because you don't get to 60, with a straight face, how do Democrats say the Republicans are shutting down the government?
Well, if you're a Democrat, and we've listened to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and what they've kind of said is, look, what we want is for some health care provision to be in there.
I know.
They haven't been super specific on exactly what it needs to be, but they're hoping, they want to get that in there. And they do point out that there are these tax credits for the Affordable Care Act that are expiring. That does seem something that does have Republican support. And look, I mean, this is part of what we're seeing with this news last night. This Trump administration going ahead, escalating the stakes of a federal shutdown, putting pressure on Democrats, saying that they're going to implement a large-scale federal layoff if Democrats don't vote with Republicans to keep the government open. Now, the Office of Management and Budget, they're the one who sent out this memo, and they told agencies that they should consider firing employees who would have otherwise merely been temporarily furloughed in a shutdown. Now, the last time there was a full government shutdown in 2013, about 850,000 employees were furloughed. That's according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. The guidance from OMB that CNBC got says the layoffs should not apply to agencies and programs that were funded in the Trump mega bill. So think things like border security, the military, or those who have programs in line with the president's priorities. But the memo also makes clear that no mass layoffs are going to take place as long as Democrats vote to keep the government open. The agency actually ended their memo saying that they remain hopeful that Democrats in Congress will not trigger a shutdown and the steps outlined above will not be necessary. But at this point, the pressure campaign doesn't seem to be working. Top Senate Republican Chuck Schumer, he remains unswayed. In a statement, he called the move an attempt at intimidation, and he said that these unnecessary firings will either be overturned in the court or the administration will end up hiring the workers back. And Joe, as we were just discussing, again, you need at least 7 Democrats. You might even need a few more, depending on what the votes we saw last time. They're out of Congress right now. They're off of Capitol Hill. They're coming back on Monday. That's when we expect to see the next vote. And this is kind of the back and forth that we're seeing right now. Democrats pushing health care and Republicans pushing back.
We all have government shutdown fatigue in the brinkmanship that both sides play. A couple of years ago, when the Republicans were out of power and the Democrats were going to do it, they're saying, if it shuts down, and the Freedom Caucus, they're saying we want these kind of cuts and we're not going to do it until, and they say, so it's not really us. We want cuts, and if you don't do it...
This time feels a little different.
Yeah, but how
this time feels different.
It's a Schumer shutdown because they're the minority party. They can't dictate what goes into it.
I'm not arguing with you. What I'm saying is this time feels different because instead of compromise, I think they might actually go ahead with this. And the Democrats have been the ones who have been so unhappy about the number of layoffs in the federal government when DOGE came through.
Do what we want.
Right.
As a minority party, or else it's your fault the government shuts down.
My guess is it looks like a big game of chicken at this point. Emily, I don't know what you think, but I would be surprised to see the Democrats go ahead with this new threat that's out there.
Do it.
Because you can say the courts will overturn it, that this will happen, but this has been one of their keys that they've been arguing with the Trump administration since January over is the idea that these government workers are necessary, that these government functions are necessary, and you can't do it without them. If they do go ahead with this,
Becky,
and those workers are furloughed, and there's a number of months or even longer before they're brought back, that undermines a huge point that the Democrats have been trying to make all along with this.
Absolutely, Becky. And you remember back in March, this is part of the reason that Schumer gave for voting to continue that government funding when we were looking at the shutdown just a few months ago. And so now to have this come up, but Schumer now seems to believe, at least based on what he said in the last 12 hours, that he's trying to call their bluff, trying to say, hey, you guys have tried to fire folks, you've had to bring them back. You understand at this point that you can't just let a bunch of people go, and trying to call them on that. I think, though, at this point, you also have to remember the political implications.
Using people as pawns is not a popular game that's going to play well, particularly, I think, on the Democrat side.
This is a sideshow. It's a sideshow. If the government gets shut down, how are the Democrats going to say this is the Republicans shutting the government down because they're not doing what we want? They don't have the right.
And if you shut the government down, how do you get out of a shutdown? What do Republicans possibly give Democrats at that point?
That's right, but they can't dictate what the Republicans need to do with health care or any of these things because they're a minority party. They don't have the presidency. They don't have the House. They don't have the Senate. So if it gets shut down,
it goes back to the
Schumer shutdown.
It goes back to the Obama administration. Elections have consequences. Those were the comments that he made.
Whatever you want to attribute it to, they're going to try. They're saying right now that if it shuts down, the Republicans are the ones shutting it down. That's not going to. That dog won't hunt. Is that what you say?
The other
There's
issue
also
is
the political implications. I mean, Schumer really got hit last time when he gave Republicans the votes, when he said, hey, we need to go and do this. There were a lot of political backlash for it. And that is, as you consider sort of what's going to happen next, that is a factor you have to keep in mind.
Right. The AOC Mamdani ticket he's worried about. The President AOC.
Is there a point that this starts to impact the economy, I would guess? You know, if this is more than what we've seen in recent history, just in terms of a few days shutdown or something like that, I wonder if it would impact the economy if it stretches out over a matter of weeks or even a month or longer.
What we've seen in the past is that, if it's just a couple days, if it's just a week, probably not going to have a ton of impact. But if this does wind up extending like we saw a couple years ago in 2018, 2019, I mean, that had, I think it was $3 billion on the fourth quarter in December for a few weeks. And then I think it was about $8 billion on the start of the year in the first quarter. So yes, this could absolutely have an economic impact. And remember, if there is a furlough, traditionally what we have seen is employees in a lot of these data gathering organizations, BLS, they wind up being furloughed, and that means less data for that upcoming Fed meeting in November.
Emily, can you name 5 things? What do they want? 5 things. I mean, I've seen that there are some crazy asks about, I don't know, health care for people that aren't here legally. What do they want? What are they actually saying Republicans need to agree to for them to get on board? What do they want?
I don't think we have enough time for me to give you the full answer. I'm just going to say the Affordable Care Act tax credits, that is the one to keep an eye on because that is the one that actually has bipartisan momentum.
So they want that, and Republicans are saying no at this point.
They're saying that Mike Johnson said that is a December policy issue, not a September issue.
Okay.
It seems like there could be a path forward, but there need to be a negotiation.
And then if they do get an agreement, how long till we do this again?
November 21st, if they go for the bill that Republicans are pushing for.
I can't. The Ryder Cup starting tomorrow. Emily, thank you. Important things. See you later.
Tease will be next.
Still to come on Squawk Pod, expiring healthcare tax credits are a key sticking point in the negotiations to avert a government shutdown. New Hampshire Democrat Jeanne Shaheen says there may not be that much talking actually happening.
Of course, there are lots of ways to get this done, and I think if people would get to the negotiating table, it's not that hard.
This is Squawk Pod.
This is Becky's mic. 3, 2, 1. Up and Becky. Cue.
You're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernan. Andrew is off today.
With less than a week until a potential government shutdown, expiring healthcare tax credits are one of the main sticking points in negotiations between Democrats and Republicans. Joining us now, New Hampshire Democrat Senator Jeanne Shaheen, who has been leading a push to extend the tax credits. Senator, it's good to see you, and you've got some Republican senators that seem to be have some empathy for what you're trying to do, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to, or that you're all going to be able to agree on something before the stopgap. And everybody wants says you can do it afterwards. Get this done, and you can still get it done before November when everybody signs up for Obamacare, so there'd still be time. Is that an option?
Well, of course, there are lots of ways to get this done. And I think if people would get to the negotiating table, it's not that hard. But the nonpartisan Office of the Congressional Budget Office has said that if we wait until the end of the year, there are going to be 1.5 million more people who are going to lose their health insurance if we do that. And what we know is that failure to extend those tax credits is going to see insurance costs rise for over 20 million people, and about 4 million people lose their health insurance entirely. So this is something that we need to address. As you pointed out, there are a number of colleagues on the other side of the aisle who also recognize that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think if we could get the leadership to sit down at the table and talk about how we solve this, it's in everybody's interest to keep the government open and to make sure that people don't lose their health insurance. And when you have the president saying to the Republican leadership in Congress, don't talk to the Democrats, and then canceling a meeting with the Democrats, and Senator Thune saying he's not going to sit down and talk, that isn't conducive to getting a resolution.
If we really are bluntly honest about it, are there other things that Senator Schumer and Democrats want to load this up with, give them an inch and they'll take them out? Would it be possible just to get what you want? And if you did offer that, would there be some openings on the Republican side, or is the problem that some of your colleagues on the Democratic side are asking for too many things, and they won't agree to whittle it just down to what you want? Because I know that Senator Johnson he doesn't even want to do this. He thinks that there's fraud, and that there are some Republicans that just don't want to do what you're talking about, but others are ready to do it. They just don't want to get taken to the cleaners with a bunch of other things.
Well, I had a roundtable yesterday with a number of small business owners in New Hampshire who rely on those tax credits to help make sure their employees get health insurance, and who themselves rely on it. And they talked about the impact it would have if those tax credits expire and their premiums go up dramatically. The number of their employees who were going to drop health insurance, unfortunately, because they're young and they're healthy, and if it gets hard and too expensive, they won't be able to do it. And then they also raised it in the context of tariffs. They all talked about how they're being affected by the rising tariffs, and that this, on top of that, just adds to the cost increases that are making it hard to operate.
But you're not really answering it.
I'm not answering your question because I think it's a bigger, I think it's a bigger problem that you're not acknowledging. But
can convince
in reality,
Johnson.
let me just finish and answer your question. Because in reality, the problem is not that we can't find a solution to this. The problem is that the leadership is not going to the table and sitting down and negotiating. Because if they negotiated, we could find a way to deal with this. We have Republicans who are interested in extending the premium tax credits. We recognize the other challenges with health care. But this is one that is in everybody's interest to extend. And the president should recognize that. Even his own pollsters say that if we don't extend these tax credits, the GOP is going to pay at the polls next year.
Yeah, but you can imagine if you make that case to either Senator Thune or to the president and say, look, this is all we want. And then they hear, oh, they're going to want this and this and this and this and this. And because they're the majority party and they control, the executive branch, they control everything at this point. So they don't, if they think that there's going to be a lot of theater and kabuki and all these other things we need, if you're going to shut the government, shut it.
The president's doing kabuki theater. He's threatening to fire a bunch of employees if we don't keep the government open. I mean, so my point is, everybody needs to stop the kabuki theater and go to the table and negotiate.
Well,
that's what the American people are expecting.
If you don't, and I don't know whether you can whittle it down to just what you want, but let's say that there is no negotiating. Do you think that Democrats should go ahead and not vote for it so that I won't say the Democrats shut it down, because they'll say that the Republicans not negotiating with them is causing the shutdown. But do you think for whatever reason, the government we should allow the government to shut down?
My position is it's in everyone's interest to keep the government open. That's the best course of action, and to make sure that we don't have millions of people losing their health insurance.
But could you negotiate after the CR?
We can solve this. There are a number of ways to solve this problem, but in order to do that, you have to talk to each other.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a deal somewhere in there that I guess you just have to take their word for it, that do the CR, and then before November you'd have to agree to do this. No?
I'm a believer in Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. I think if you get an agreement, it is keep the government open, and we're going to agree that we're going to solve this problem with the premium tax credits or some other issue that helps ensure that the American people can keep their health care.
What are do you know what's likely to be in addition to what you're talking about? What are other senators, Democratic senators' key priorities that they want to layer on to what you're talking about? I mean, you must know.
Well, no, I don't, in fact, and I haven't heard people talking about layering on anything else.
So
what I've heard is concern about ensuring that Americans can keep their health insurance. And I think that's an easy issue to solve. And we have people on both sides of the aisle who want to do that.
Senator, thank you. Live free or die. I'd say that all the time.
Good. We like it.
Is your maple syrup better than Vermont's?
Of course it is.
I don't think I've asked you that. I've asked everybody else. Definitely better? I mean, it's proven to be better.
And our foliage is more beautiful, too. So.
Than Vermont. Wow. Let's fight. What about ice cream? Maybe they got the ice cream. Or no, Ben's gone. Or Jerry's gone. One of them's gone.
No, Ben and Jerry's Vermont. So we have our own ice cream in New Hampshire.
You do? Okay. You know what? I think I'd like yours more, just from what I can tell. Thank you, Senator. It's good to be
Thank you.
All right.
Next on Squawk Pod, Wall Street's newest public company, self-driving trucks. The CEO of Kodiak Robotics joins us.
I don't know. I worry that truck could kill me. I shouldn't?
You shouldn't. So safety is always our first priority.
And the fast track to U.S. citizenship. Our Robert Frank on how the world's richest can become Americans. It's quick and not cheap.
There has been a huge sea change around the world where the wealthy want to hedge their bets in their country. So they want a backup plan. They want a plan B.
You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC. Here's Becky Quick.
Welcome back, everybody. Later this morning, autonomous truck technology company Kodiak is going to begin trading on the Nasdaq after completing a SPAC transaction. It's changing its name to Kodiak AI, and joining us right now on the potential benefits of AI-powered trucking, that means trucks that are driving themselves, is Kodiak's founder and CEO, Don Brunette. And Don, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I did not realize how these things are already on the roads, at least down in Texas at this point. Why don't you describe what the trucks are, how they run, and what the AI component is?
Sure. So trucking is obviously a huge part of the American economy. And one of the big challenges over the last several decades has been driver shortage and challenges that drivers face on the road. And so we've been working to automate the trucks with AI technology that allows them to effectively drive on their own. And our first commercial deployment is out in West Texas with a company called Atlas Energy Solutions. And we have now 8 trucks that are fully driverless, meaning there's nobody in the cab out operating on a daily basis.
And they're out driving. You picked this area of Texas because it's fairly remote. There's not a lot of traffic on the road, but there is other traffic. It's not a closed loop.
Absolutely. So there's actually quite a bit of traffic, and in particular, there's a lot of close quarter traffic. So we have a lot of oncoming vehicles, heavy trucks, big vehicles, pedestrians, pretty much everything you would find on any road network. But it is fairly remote, and it's a great place to first deploy the technology.
But they're trying to go a certain MPH, obviously. If someone's in their way, they have the capability on a 2-lane highway of passing.
Absolutely. So we're operating off highway today, but yes, they can pass, stop traffic. They can yield for other traffic. They follow all the rules of the road. All the rules still apply.
Oh, unlike most, no, the professionals are actually good. I'm shocked when a pro driver stays in the left lane, and we're trying to get around, and it's like, I know you know better, I know you do because you're a pro, but so they're going to do what a really good truck driver. I'm worried about with driving cars. You worry about, hey, if you want to go around a driverless car, that's your problem. You're not going to kill me. One of these things on the road, I worry about.
Yeah,
It could be coming. I don't know. I worry that truck could kill me. I shouldn't.
You shouldn't. So safety is always our first priority. And as you said, our trucks are programmed to be conservative. They're going to sit in the right-hand lane, minding their own business. They're not going to cut you off. Yeah. If they're going to pass cautiously. They're going to pass when there's an opening. And so they're going to abide by the speed limit. They never get drowsy. They never drive drunk.
Right.
They're always paying attention 360 degrees around the vehicle.
You have 3,000 paid hours of these driverless trucks to this point. Have you had any accidents, had any issues?
We have not had any at-fault accidents with our system.
At fault? Was there somebody else?
We've had situations where we've been hit primarily in the trailer by other vehicles. Absolutely. It's happened a handful of times. But that's the reality of being out on the road. That's the risk that you have to undertake. But our system is incredibly cautious, incredibly safe.
What happened when somebody else hit one of the trucks and there's nobody in the truck? Like how did they react to that? How does law enforcement react to that?
Yeah, the trucks are actually detecting whether they've been hit. So we're monitoring all around the truck. So we see when there's been a collision. The truck safely pulls over to the side of the road, and we have a 24-hour monitoring system, which allows a human to then go in and review the material, communicate with law enforcement, and handle the situation on the ground.
But that's, wow. I'm sorry to dig down into the details. I know you got a lot of other financial stuff to talk about, but I'm just thinking if I hit a truck, there was nobody in it, and then somebody from the company came and said, yeah, it was your fault. Show me that, prove that to me, and how do you play that out? What happened in the instances where this has already happened?
Well, the great thing about our trucks, in addition to real-time monitoring of the scenario, is that we're logging all of that data. We have cameras, we have LiDAR, we have radar, so we know the speeds of all the vehicles, we know where they are on the road, and we're logging all of it. And so we can effectively replay the entire situation in a lot of detail.
Did anybody get hurt in the other cars that hit?
No, we've never had any injuries.
Okay. What's the plan from here? If it's effective here, I would assume that regulators in Texas are probably more lax than you would get here in New York City or somewhere. I see one of the trucks right across the street in Times Square. But how long before we see the trucks in urban areas, in metro areas, in suburban areas?
Well, we're working hard to scale the operation. We're starting in remote locations for safety reasons. We want to make sure we take a crawl, walk, run approach to this. But gradually over the next coming years, you're going to see an expansion of the rollout. You're going to see more trucks on the road. You're going to see more efficiency from these vehicles. And eventually they will be ubiquitous across all roadways.
How expensive is it for you to get the startup on this? How much capital do you have to pour into this? And then how do you make your money? You charge a service fee, basically, per hour or per mile?
Yeah, so this is a driver as a service, as we call it. So we effectively provide the service that a driver would typically bring to these companies, and they would pay us on kind of a fixed rate. So we provide the technology, the hardware, the sensors, the computers. Our customers buy the trucks. That's an important one for Kodiak. Our customers own and operate their own vehicles. We are an asset-light company, and then they pay us as a service fee on a regular basis to operate and drive the trucks.
How long before the company's profitable?
We haven't given any guidance exactly on profitability, but we're really proud of the fact that we actually are delivering driverless revenue now, which is something that not a lot of other autonomy companies have been able to say.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but it is very interesting to see the progress. Don, good luck at the opening bell today, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
If you mess up the opening bell, we're going to think your trucks are not safe either. You know how to do this, right? Did you practice?
I've been practicing, that's right.
I'll help you practice.
Yeah.
Is there a program? Well, let's say a little kid is in the back and goes by and goes like this. Can the truck pick up on that and do the horn for see, we're going to miss the drive.
We've talked about that for many years, and unfortunately, there's two horns in a truck nowadays. You have the standard horn, which is more an automated system, and then you've got the loud horn where you actually pull it. Yeah. That is fully manual, so we don't have control over the loud horn, but it's something that we may add down the line.
You just give a little beep, 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 beep. Right.
See, these are the kind of things people love. LiDAR, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the best way?
We believe a comprehensive approach to sensing the environment is the safest today. So that's why we have both camera, LiDAR, and radar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buying U.S. citizenship is now a lot cheaper, and that's drawing some interest from the world's wealthy. Robert Frank joins us now with more. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Good to see you. The White House saying it's going to make 80,000 gold cards available in the coming years. Immigration attorneys and wealth advisors telling me, based on interest they're already seeing, they expect this thing could easily sell out. With that executive order last week, President Trump announced the new $1 million gold card that grants foreign nationals residency and a path to a green card in, quote, record time. The price had been $5 million when he first announced it back in February. That 80% price cut instantly makes this gold card one of the best deals in the $100 billion global visa market. So Singapore's golden visa, that requires an investment of over $7 million. New Zealand, just under $3 million. Bermuda's is $2.5 million. Now, the cost in those other countries, of course, they are investments, while the $1 million for the gold card is labeled, quote, an unrestricted gift to the government. So you don't get any of that money back. Advisors say that the biggest demand for the gold card likely to be China, India, the Middle East, Brazil, and Mexico. Right now, over 7,500 millionaires are expected to move to the U.S. this year. That's under the existing programs. The gold card likely to attract even more of that wealth. For the full analysis of the gold card, the platinum card, we don't have a black card yet, but maybe, you can go to cnbc.com/insidewealth. That full analysis, my new newsletter, out in just an hour and a half if you sign up now.
Membership has its privileges.
It even says that on the Trump Gold Card website. It said, unlock your privileges now with the gold card and the platinum card. So he's definitely borrowing the marketing.
Knowing the president, I think it might stick. He likes gold.
He likes gold.
He likes seeing the Oval Office and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he'll stick with gold card. So what are for people that we're talking about that would like to come here, and they can come here already. They can just stay longer. What is the main thing that if they actually want to be? Do they want to come here and live forever as citizens? Do they want to be citizens of the United States?
Yes,
they do.
So again,
I admire that, and I can understand why they.
There has been a huge sea change around the world where the wealthy want to hedge their bets in their country. So they want a backup plan. They want a plan B. That's why we now have an industry that's $100 billion a year of countries selling investments, selling golden visas. The U.S. hadn't really been playing that game. Now, $1 million, very quick, immediate, probably very light screening. If you got $1 million, you qualify. That has never been available. This replaces the EB-1 and EB-2 programs, which were about $7,000. But there's a huge waiting list right now. China and India are already, there's a backlog in the EB-1 and EB-2 programs. So you've never had a fast track express lane, $1 million gets you in. There's huge, the investment advisors I talk to say they think they can sell hundreds of them, each of them already.
No, not knocking the program itself, but if it's replacing the program that people can buy their way in for $7,000, do we risk losing intellectual power from young and kind of startup places that the immigrants that might have been powering things in the past for us?
Yeah, that we won't know what that impact's going to look like for years. The programs that it replaces, the EB-1, EB-2, this is not, the Trump Gold Card is not a new program. It's just a new label for EB-1 and EB-2. Those programs were extraordinary achievements for EB-1, and EB-2 was sort of extraordinary abilities.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with
subjective. That's sort of subjective. And so the question is, who was getting in that program? Did they really meet those standards? And what countries did they come from? And will it change? Will that profile change under the gold card and maybe the platinum card if that ever comes to be? And we just don't know. We don't know who's going to get it, what kind of screening. And the people that have already tried to sign up through the website, there's no actual application process yet for the gold card. Well, still a bit of a mystery.
Trump ruined it. It used to be a hell of a lot easier under Biden. It was like, $5 grand in Tucson, right? You could get
Get across
in
the
the back of
board.
it.
Again, I don't have a problem.
$5,000 instead of
paying
is it $1 million now?
Yeah,
that's
paying $1 million
inflation.
to get in. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the gift. It looks like a quick bunker buy if you're looking for, if you're the wealthy somewhere else and you're looking to do it. But I would like to see that we're still taking people based on merit and the people we think can help this country the most.
And my point is, even though $1 million sounds like a lot to most people, there is huge demand already for this. And
We didn't
I think
even get
they're
the
going to sell out.
$5,000. Somebody else got it. So under the Biden.
That's right.
Under the Biden program. So thank you, Robert.
Thank you, guys.
That is Squawk Pod for today. As always, thanks for listening to this podcast. Tell a friend to listen too, why don't you? Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern to get the smartest takes and analysis from our TV show right into your ears. Follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.